Madam Chair, I think that you might want to just do a roll call just to make sure that everyone's on. That might be easier because
Kate, I can actually see, I just did a head count with the pictures
Okay.
on my screen, so I
Okay.
can see that everyone's here. So
Okay.
I just want to say thank you to everyone who's here, and I apologize that our previous executive session went over. I thank you all for being here, and I ask that you please stand and join us in the Pledge of Allegiance.
Aaron,
Yes.
Aaron, before you do that, a whole bunch of people are muted and not by their own choice.
They should be.
I think
No,
that's
school committee members.
I think you can mute yourself, Marge.
Oh, no, Brian can't unmute himself.
Oh, okay. Let's see.
I'll work on it. Brian Bradshaw, is that who
It looks
we're
like
working?
Brian and Adam, right?
I'm fixed now. Thank you, Kate.
Okay,
Yep.
Adam's on. Carly's having trouble.
Okay.
And Brian Bradshaw.
Brian,
Thank you.
Brian's in. It looks like John
Carly?
Bento and Carly.
Thank you. All set.
I'm not sure if Sheila's good too.
Sheila,
And we have John
Set now, thanks.
John
Okay, I think
Bento.
I'm up.
Okay, great.
Thank you.
Okay, so we'll get this meeting started, and if everyone could please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance. Thank you. I pledge allegiance
Allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America
and
and to the republic
For which it
stands one nation
under
under
God,
God,
indivisible, with liberty
and
and
justice
justice
for
for
all.
all.
thank you so much. And now we want to take public comment, and we're going to try to do this by a show of hands. And I think, Kate, do you want to moderate this portion? I think I don't know where Kate is now, but
I am here. I think that I can try to moderate it. I might need my co-host to help with the show of hands. So, but Aaron, Madam Chair, I do think that if you ask for a show of hands, and we'll take a look, and we'll see who is wanting to make public comment, and then we'll go through that list for
Okay.
the 15 minutes.
that sounds great. So, would anyone like to make a public comment? And I know I can't see faces everywhere, so if you need to raise your hand or indicate some other way that you'd like to speak.
There are some individuals that have their digital hand raised. I see Mrs. Gray, Mrs. Angry Special Ed Mom, Liz Canavo Gruber, Nathan Caluro.
I can see him. So let's start with Liz. That was the first hand that I saw go up. So you've got the floor, Liz. Thank you.
Thank you. I just had a quick comment. Can everyone hear me? Sorry. I just want to make sure I'm unmuted.
Yes.
The moderator muted everyone before.
You are unmuted.
Thank you. Thank you, Erin. I'm on the board at the Colt Andrews Parent Group. And you'll also want to make a note that there are many other Colt Andrews families logged into this call in support of our staff at Colt Andrews. I'm speaking tonight on behalf of the 4th grade teacher, our social worker, and our special education teacher. It's my understanding that we are cutting these positions, and it's also my understanding that the budget was fully funded. Once again, I am here to remind you that we are a Title I school and our children have needs. What may be right for one school may not be right for another, and I urge you to consider this decision very carefully. With pending new regulations and restrictions due to COVID-19 crisis, we may be in need of additional support staff to fill the gap that distance learning has left. The social and emotional needs of our children will be greater now than ever before. The special educators will have more challenges in the coming school year. Our incoming fourth graders are indeed in a bubble classroom. So displacing a fourth grade team only to have to reinstate a teacher the following year, in my opinion, is a short-sighted decision in our fluid downtown community, as that number could easily go up. The needs of our children and our Title I school must come first, and during a crisis is hardly the time to disrupt a Title I school by displacing a teacher for 1 year only to have to replace them the next. Not to mention removing a critical social emotional support team and a special educator that will clearly be needed in order to face the challenges that we will have to overcome this school year. Thank you. I just wanted to express my opinion, and I thank you for being heard.
I think the next person will be Anne Marie. Anne Marie, I'm having trouble unmuting you, so my
okay.
co-host,
that?
there you are.
Okay.
That's okay.
Hi, everyone. I have a question. How is cutting a fourth grade teacher, a social worker, and a special ed teacher in the best interest of the students? And I also agree that it seems short-sighted to cut a fourth grade teacher, especially when we'll need to bring one back the next year. And then also in turn, if this happens again in 2 years, for the fifth, when they, the bubble class is in fifth grade, will we have to go through this again? It doesn't make sense to cut that teacher. And just as Liz said, also, we need the social emotional support. Who's going to fill that gap? And I can't understand how we can do without one of the special ed teachers. It doesn't seem to make sense. Do we still have a Title I standing? Did that change in some way? And I'm finished. Thank you.
Thank you very much. I am reminded that I do remember each person's name that is doing this, but Madam Chair, in the absence of the public forum, I'm going to have people also state their full name and their address, just for the record.
Would you like me to say it now, even though I already
Yes,
spoke?
please.
Okay, Anne Marie Chappelle, 4 Fernwood Road, Bristol, Rhode Island. I have children at Colt Andrews School.
Thank you. And now we'll go to Mr. Nathan Colaro.
Good evening, everyone. I just want to make sure I understand the process right, is that this is a one-way conversation, correct? Okay. So first off, thank you. Second off, I don't like your process. What I mean by that is it's crazy to me that this would be a one-way process. Why is it that the public is speaking to you, asking questions, and you're not responding to them? I know this has been a long-standing process and a way that you do things, but it's wrong. You should be responding to the public. I think Anne Marie had a great point. I think that Liz made a great point. Jamie and I are here, our kids are over here. Emily is in third grade at Colt Andrews. We talked about at joint finance, and I typically, my role in joint finance is to talk about the dollars. I'm so thankful that I get to take that hat off tonight and be a dad. We've talked about 5 and 5. How is this going to get to 5 and 5 when we're cutting teachers? We fully funded. You advocated ad nauseum, and I'm glad that you did, to fully fund. We are there, and now you're cutting teachers. That is not, I'm going to use my words, so that is not the best way to handle things, in my opinion. It's not just about the numbers, it's about the need. So if we based some of our decisions on the town level just on the numbers, for example, if we only paved a road that had 100 people drive on it a day, then all those side streets would never get paved. That doesn't mean they're not important. Excuse the crass example, but every child is important. And just because maybe those numbers have dropped, our child, Emily, and lots of other children, but I'm only going to talk about Emily just for a moment, she'll tell us about her classroom and that they're able to, because so many children are pulled out of the classroom for special needs, which is wonderful, that they go to another table because there isn't enough kids in her table. So this is not just about the numbers. The last man standing is what they call that. I'm almost done. $512,000 that you just spent to purchase computers. I'm sorry, this is a wonderful time that we all see the value of computers and being home, being able to work, but at a time right now, these new computers don't do anything new. And this is the part where I initially said, I'm frustrated with your process because I think you should be able to respond. I think you should be able to justify your opinion, but I don't see that happening. And lastly, I'll tell you that, may I make a suggestion respectfully that you move your executive session to the end of your meeting? So your meeting started at 7, you had 100 people waiting for you to start. I know you apologized. And again, I appreciate where you're coming from, but you had so many people waiting for you. That should happen at the end of your meeting. I know I'm negative here, but I got to tell you, I'm on the opposite side of this and I hear all of your advocates or advocation for fully funding. We did that. And I cannot believe that we sit here this evening talking about cutting teachers. Thank you.
I am going to call on Miss Angry Sped Mom, and believe that I do need, again, name and address.
Hi, I'm Tara Redmond, 18 Second School Street, Bristol, Rhode Island. My son goes to Cole Andrews School. He is also in the 3rd grade. This virus has taken a toll on our family, and unfortunately, I have been a victim of domestic violence in between all of this. And if it wasn't for my son's teacher, his special ed teacher, and his social worker, Mrs. Marshall, I don't know how we would be getting through this right now. These people are crucial to our children's education and their mental health and their well-being. And that's something that we need to think about, is the mental health part of it. Without a social worker that my son feels comfortable speaking to, what is he going to do? He's not going to talk to anybody else. My son is finally at a 3rd grade level and continuing to do his work and being excited about it. And when I just told him that he may be losing his special ed teacher and his social worker, he was almost in tears because that's where he feels safe. We're not thinking about the kids when we're cutting this. To me, it's just beyond ridiculous. And to have to fight for these kids year after year after year is getting exhausting. Exhausting. So please keep these kids in mind. Sometimes smaller class sizes are better for these children. We don't need bigger class sizes. That's all.
Thank you. I'm going to call on Mrs. Gray.
Hi, my name is Shannon Gray. I live at 14 Rosedale Drive in Bristol. I have a 2nd grader at Colt Andrews. I am also a special educator in another district in this state. And I've been doing Zoom all day, so I'm going to try to keep my thoughts in place. But I didn't have a lot of time to prepare for this because I just found out today that my daughter, who has special needs, is about to lose 2 members of her team. 2 members of her team who are written directly into her IEP are being cut because it benefits who? Not her, not her classmates. Miss Marshall has called my daughter to check on her. The special educator who got cut, who doesn't have my daughter this year, has called my daughter to check on her. That school is a community. You can't be cutting people and expecting these kids to continue to thrive. My daughter's not supposed to be here. My daughter's not supposed to be able to read. My daughter's not supposed to be able to do half the stuff that these people who you're cutting made her able to do. I sat through an IEP where Mr. Clark told me there's no more collaborative classrooms. And I had to accept that. Now I have to accept that knowing she's gonna be pulled out of the classroom more often. I have to accept that knowing she's probably not going to get her social work goals met. I have to accept that, knowing there's going to be more special needs kids put in her non-collaborative classroom. And how is she going to be serviced? You guys are going to be violating an IEP with these cuts. Plain and simple. Thank you.
I think I see Miss Elizabeth O'Shea.
Hi, can you hear me?
Yes.
Hi, I'm Elizabeth O'Shea. I have 2 third graders at Colt Andrews, and I'm the Colt Andrews Parent Group president this year, co-president. Yeah, I just wanted to make a comment. Yet again, it's been an ongoing battle with the rising 4th graders. That class has been small since the very beginning. We've lost numbers, we gained. It is not a bubble class, as was stated earlier. It actually is just a small class. What you do if you cut that teacher, you're actually making an indent. So it's quite different from the other schools where they've cut bubble teachers. So meaning that the teacher would have to be replaced the next year because the rising 3rd graders have a much larger class. So you're causing an upset in a blue ribbon school that has a wonderful community and has been doing quite well and getting along just fine. You have tremendous support. This has been a disaster with the pandemic, and what we have, the support group that we have at Colt Andrews wouldn't be there. We all were just on the line from the very beginning. The reason that our students, our children are supported is because they have these relationships with everybody in that building. And if you're going to cut 3 vital members of that community, I want you to understand what it is you're doing. I mean, nobody has unlimited money. I don't know. I only heard about this today. I have no idea what happened. I was thinking that things were probably okay because the budget was fully funded and you've been saving loads of money through this pandemic and not busing kids, et cetera, et cetera. So I'm interested in some sort of explanation as why this was even deemed necessary. All right, and please think about what you're doing. You have a fabulous community to Colt Andrews where kids feel supported. It's a lifeline for so many of the children at a Title I school. Please think about what you're doing. Thank you.
Thank you. The next person, and we still have 2 minutes left, is Michael L. Please state your name and your address.
Hi, it's actually Jessica Lazo, and my address is 313 State Street, Bristol, Rhode Island. Sorry, I'm using my son's computer.
Okay, thank you.
You're muted.
We can't hear you. Let's try it again. Try one more time.
Beginning of this year. Oh, can you hear me? Sorry.
Now we can hear you. We didn't hear any. Okay.
Sorry. My son was put into the special education program at the beginning of this year. He's in 3rd grade, and he works with Mrs. Correa. Coming into 3rd grade, he was hardly at a 1st grade level. We dealt with very difficult days. Every day coming home from school, he would cry. I don't want to do homework. I don't want to go to school anymore. I don't get it anything. I'm just not smart enough. I will never be smart enough were the things said to him. And after working with Mrs. Correa, she did things that I couldn't figure out. Sometimes the teachers just couldn't give him that time to figure it out. And he went from hardly a 1st grade level to finally getting into 3rd grade level, and loves school, loves doing his homework, finally says, I'm smart, and says he wants to be something when he grows up, and loves to read now. And taking her out another teacher out to give him some time that he needs is going to bring him back down. It's not going to help him grow or succeed and continue that process that he has made in not even a year of school. So I just want to tell you my story and the struggles that we went through for years until he had that help that he needed, and who you're going to be taking away from my son. So that's all. Thank you.
Thank you. Madam Chair, we have surpassed the 15-minute mark, but there are still some hands raised. I'd like to know what to do.
Sorry for the delay. I had to unmute. I think that we should allow an extra 5 minutes. If there are a couple more public comments, and I would just ask that if there are more on the same subject, maybe leave those minutes to someone else. And then I would also like to suggest that people can also submit their comments to us via email or any other way. I do have another comment to make after this, but let's allow another 5 minutes. Thank you.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I'm going to, I believe that there was a hand, an iPhone hand. I'm going to unmute. Please state your name and your address. Yes. Would you please state your name?
Hello?
Yep.
Hi. Well, I don't see me on here, but I have a son, and my name is Michelle Jones, and I have a son in the 4th grade right now at Colt Andrews, and I previously had 2 children in the school, which now they are in 8th grade, which is great, and they're going to the high school next year. But my son, he benefited from the program at the school. He had a difficulty in writing, and he didn't have social work, but I do have a foster child that, you know, I'm concerned with if they're doing that now at Colt Andrews, and I'm concerned that they're going to do that in the high school, cutting budgets and firing teachers, or considering getting rid of teachers. I just want to make my voice heard that these services for the kids are instrumental to their education and their well-being and their lives, and it just, I wouldn't know what to do. If this is the first step with Colt Andrews Elementary, then what's the next step? Is it going to be middle school? It's going to be high school. I know the epidemic and the virus, it's going to be ongoing for God knows how long. But is this the first step? That's all I'm asking. Is it going to continue to go to other schools? The middle school, the high school? I just don't want to see that. That's it.
Okay.
Yeah,
Thank you.
I have 3 children, and it's just sad that I see it. It happens. It seems to happen every year at Colt Andrews. They want to cut a teacher on every grade. It started in kindergarten, and then 1st grade, then 3rd grade. Now it's 4th grade. It's every year. So there's a petition every year to keep these teachers there, and it happens. You know, they stay because we need them. So that's it.
Okay. Thank you very much.
Mhm.
And I believe that there's one hand raised, and it will be Mr. Daryl Gould. Would you please state your name and your address, and know that you have 2 minutes for comment.
Okay, Daryl Gould. I live at 91 Main Street in Warren, Rhode Island, and I have 3 children in the district who are currently being taught at my house, which is formerly known as KMS. First, and I'm going to echo what Mr. Kaluro said in a very polite manner. You guys had, the school committee had over 100 people waiting over 40 minutes while you were in executive session. And the idea that we are limited in a one-way conversation to 15 minutes collectively is absolutely disgusting. It's a possible violation of open meeting law. This is our only opportunity as parents. We don't even get a response, but this is our opportunity as parents where we can communicate with you guys in an open forum during a school committee meeting, and we're going to get tabled if it pleases the crown, we'll get an extra 5 minutes. I think it's ridiculous. I think you have an obligation to the people who you are purportedly serving to stay here and listen to us. There have been plenty of nights where we've all sat in the lunchroom at the high school, waiting hours for people to get out of executive session, going home to where our kids are in bed because it's 11 o'clock at night. So I think you owe it to everyone out here when you're telling people you're making cuts to their children's education, when we're looking at, you got fully funded. We got, there's obviously a surplus with some savings that we're seeing as a result of the COVID pandemic. This is the double speak. You guys came to everybody and said, we want fully funded, which I was actually not in agreement with, because I wanted to see how the fiscal responsibility of the district before we start doling out, more money. So I don't know how you can look yourself in the mirror when you came to people and you got a ton of support for your fully funded district, and there's a surplus on top of that. And then you're going to immediately turn around before the end of that school year and tell people that you're cutting some of the most important teachers and faculty members at one of our most Title I schools. So you guys really need to reevaluate how these meetings run, your priorities, and that, I don't believe that you work for us. You should be representing us. And as such, you should be listening to what we all say. And I'm sorry if that's not going to come in by way of an email or a personal conversation. Again, you owe it to everyone here to listen to what they have to say. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, everyone, for your comments. I just want to make a couple of comments in response to Mr. Gould and Mr. Kaluro, and I'm guessing how many others are feeling. I've made this statement in past meetings. It is an extraordinarily uncomfortable position to be in, where we have to take public comment and not respond or have a two-way conversation. That is not this school committee's decision or something that we enjoy doing by any stretch of the imagination. And the reason that I ask for people to send comments and whatever you want to say into us, in addition, or just to have another way to do that, is because we do want to hear from everyone. So contrary to what Mr. Kaluro and Mr. Gould think, this is the setup because what we can speak about on the agenda is what is on the agenda. And that is because, at least this is my understanding from our legal counsel, which we are obligated to follow, we can only discuss items that are on our agenda. And that is because when we notice the public and the agenda is made public, the public decides based on what's on the agenda, whether or not they want to come and participate in the conversation, listen to what's being talked about, etc. So if we have discussions at a school committee meeting and those items are not on the agenda, then people are potentially missing out on conversations. And so by law, and our legal counsel, I believe, is still here, can correct me if I'm wrong, we unfortunately have to follow that, that rule. I don't know why the Bristol Town Council doesn't, but I'm certainly, I don't want, I just feel very uncomfortable sitting here, you know, with people intimating that we're doing this because we don't want to hear from the public. That could not be further from the truth. And so I invite you all to always please come, make public comment, be here. And we absolutely, this school committee and this chairperson absolutely and always wants to hear from you. With that being said, I thank you all again for your comments, and I would move on to asking for a motion to approve the minutes from the May 11th school committee virtual meeting.
Motion to approve, Madam Chairwoman.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Thank you. And then I also need to ask for a motion to seal the executive session minutes from tonight's meeting, May 21st, 2020.
So
Motion
moved.
to approve.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Thank you. Now we'll move on to discussion and action items. First on our list is our non-renewal of certified teachers.
Coming.
So I think this is kind of on the agenda in an interesting way this time, but I think I need to ask for a motion to approve the non-renewals, and then I can ask for discussion.
Motion to approve, Madam Chairwoman.
Second.
Great discussion. I've got Mrs. Ellsworth first, and then Mr. Cabral, please.
Sorry. I was on mute permanently and figure out how to get me off. So I just think that we owe it to the people that are out there. I think there's like 120 people at this point. Why we decide? Can everybody hear me?
Very difficult, Sheila.
Can everybody hear me?
No. No, it's not working right, Sheila.
Can you hear me now?
It's a little bit better.
It's better.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay. So what I was saying is, I think that we, as a school body and Dr. Bryce, I think we owe it to kind of the general population, 128 people that are in attendance, of why we're doing this and what the whole point is. But before we do that, as a school committee member, I have, and you know this from experience, I am a very detail-oriented person. So I haven't received financials since December to know what position we're in, what surplus we have now, and what is going to happen in the future. And so I'd like to understand kind of for everybody else too, is why we're doing this when the town fully funded us. I received, can you hear me?
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay, you can hear me? Sorry if you can't hear me. Can anybody hear me? Erin?
It's breaking up, but I can hear you.
Okay. So the finance committee for the House of Representatives on the state received a CARES Act, and it was a presentation that they received that would take the last 3 years, if in fact the state would take money, take any money, it would take the last 3 years. The last 3 years are actually actually more than we would receive now. So it doesn't make sense kind of saying that we have a shortfall when we really don't. So I think we need to explain why we're doing what we're doing and what you're seeing, Dr. Bryce, to make that decision when in fact it appears that we do have the money.
So thank you for that question. So a couple of things. So first and foremost, the idea that the school committee have not received financials since December is absolutely not true. You may disagree with the format of them. We continue to work through that process. Certainly, I know that other school committee members have received that. Let's talk about why we're at this point. So first and foremost, this is not a situation of our own making. This is not a situation of the Joint Finance Committee's making. As a matter of fact, everyone remembers that the Joint Finance Committee worked hand in hand with the school district to provide full funding for the school district. We are absolutely thrilled by that. We did not expect in any way to be at this point. However, we also realize that the economy has gone over a cliff. And we as a school district are bound by a couple of issues that people may not know. Number one, there were conversations between major unions in the state and the governor's office to move a critical date. That date is June 1. It is a statutory requirement for all school districts to notify teachers if they are going to have to lay them off for budget reasons. Because that date was not moved to July the 1st, at this point, school districts are operating blindly. I certainly hope, and I have spoken with town administrators, both town administrators, I certainly hope that we are fully funded. And if that is the case, this is an exercise that will not come to fruition. Let me say again, if we are fully funded, this is an exercise that will not come to fruition. However, we still have the June 1 date, which is required by the state to make notification. If we fail to make notification and the budget is not fully funded, then we would actually have more people than we could afford, and we would have to still pay for them. And then the question would be, how can we pay for them if we don't have a budget that meets? So here are the assumptions that we are operating under. Number one, we are operating under the first belief that we will be fully funded. That is our hope, that is our belief. The towns have not said that we will not be, but they also have not declared that we will be fully funded. The reason why is because across the state and across the country, people are unsure of all of the revenues that will be available to them, and they are unsure about whether or not they will be able to utilize all of the federal funding to close the gap. And so that's the first hope, that we are fully funded. If, however, based on the presentation that I reviewed that was submitted to the Rhode Island House Finance Committee, they were to look at a 3-year average for state aid and for local aid. It is our belief that we would actually be short approximately $2 million in terms of our budget. If that is the case, then we would have to find $2 million. Later on this week, there has been some discussion among superintendents. All superintendents in the state are on calls twice per week, along with our leadership teams, where we're discussing budget issues. And there was talk that they may ignore, legislators may ignore or waive the maintenance of effort requirement. If they were to do that, there was talk that there may be maybe a maximum of a 10% cut. And that cut would impact us, if it was local, it would impact us at about $4 million, $3.9, $4 million. And so because the deadline has not been moved, that June 1st deadline, which is state law, because it was not moved to July 1st, school districts are actually operating blind. All right. So what we are doing is taking steps that are precautionary. I personally, along with the chief operating officer and members of the BWEA leadership, met with everybody that received a notice that their position would be discussed at the school board. So I did that yesterday to explain to them the circumstances, that we hope that we have to prepare for the worst, but we hope for the best. And that it is our belief that towns have not said to us that we would not be funded, but we also know that with the deadline, this is a step that unfortunately we had to take. So let's talk about the surplus. So my recommendation to the school committee is to take $1 million of that surplus and use that to protect any jobs that may be threatened because we're not fully funded. And so that was the first piece that we had to do. I have also looked in things like supplies and materials, substitute costs, and other positions that are non-BWEA. And we have identified potential cost savings. We have not discussed those cost savings because at this time, it is not appropriate for us to have that conversation, because this may go away by mid-June or the third week of June at the latest. And so that's what we're hoping for. Finally, as we think about everything that has happened today, first and foremost, let me say, I said it in the staff update yesterday, I'm going to say it in the community update tomorrow. I'm absolutely proud of the work that every member of BWRSD has done through this pandemic. They are working above and beyond. They are taking care of children. They are helping families. They are taking care of each other. This is unfortunately an administrative issue that all of the superintendents around the state actually believed that we were going to get resolved by having that date moved. If that date moves, then we're sitting here, we're watching, we're hoping that the revenue projections get closed and that we're not going to have to worry about, are we going to have to, trim here or lay off here. So I know that that we had a parent who's also an elected official who was on, who talked about the JFC fully funded. Let me say again, the JFC fully funded our budget, all right? We are so very thankful for that. What we don't know, and what no one can possibly know, is whether or not the revenues will be there to fully execute against what the JFC has promised. And that's why we're in this situation. We're not in this situation because our staff aren't doing great jobs. They are. We're not in this situation because we are callous and we don't care about our people, because we're not callous and we absolutely do care about our people. We are in this position because the deadline gives us no other choice but to ensure that the district does not have more staff after June 18th than we could possibly afford. If the revenues come in, it will be my recommendation to the school committee that we return everybody to their positions. That will be my recommendation. But at this time, my recommendation has to be that we need to ensure that the district is not going to have more staff than it could afford if our budget is not fully funded. And that's not about the towns. That's about what happens at the federal level and the state level and coming through.
Is Aaron there? She's
Aaron's muted. Oh, all right.
I'm unmuted now. I thought, John, do you have something that you want to contribute?
No, I just was wondering if you just get disconnected, that's all.
Oh, okay. Thank you. Mr. Cabral, did you have something you want to say?
No, I was muted, but somebody unmuted me, so I'm all set. Thank you.
Okay, no worries. Does anyone else have any questions or comments?
I do, Aaron, if Madam Chair, if I could.
Go ahead, Mr. Ramos.
Thank you. And I want to thank Dr. Bryce for that very thorough explanation. And I just want to reiterate on behalf of myself, and I won't deign to speak for anybody else, but I imagine it's a sentiment that's shared by others, that these are not, it's not a decision that we want to make right now. There's no reason why any of these people that are being notified of this layoff should not still be working for our children in our schools, doing all of the excellent work that was so eloquently described by the people who gave public comment tonight, to make sure that those kids who need it the most, and all of the kids in our district, have the services they need, the personal care and personal touch that they need to thrive and learn and reach their potential. And I think that the best way to encapsulate what I understand Dr. Bryce to have just said is, if we get all of the money that we're expect to be able to get, because the state is able to fund at the amount that they said that they were going to be able to fund, and because the towns are able to fund at the amount that they said they were going to be able to fund, then all of these people are coming back. These cuts are not based on the budget that was submitted by the school committee and ultimately approved by the JFC. These are a contingency plan, and we're backed into a corner by the law and having to make decisions at a time when we would rather not be making them. So we've heard all of you, and in fact, we share the sentiments, I think, that you shared regarding the value of all these people. And there's nothing that we hope for more than that the worst case scenario that we're protecting against does not come to fruition. And we'll be reacting with the rest of the world as financial situations work themselves out, and governments come up with the plans that they come up with to move forward financially as a result of the economic impacts of the coronavirus. But this is not our vision for how the school should be. This is just the safety net, and that we have to do in order to ensure the ability to operate effectively in the event of the worst case scenario. So I send an apology on behalf of myself, at least, that this is what we have to do. And I know that it brings anguish to a lot of people to hear that the news and not necessarily fully understand, and then to deal with the uncertainty that will be dealt with until we know what the outcome is on the other side. But this is the only way for us to, in my view anyway, to move forward with responsibility in order to make sure that we're able to do what we need to do in the event of the worst case scenario.
I think you're muted still.
I think I'm unmuted now. Mr. Bradshaw?
Yes, thank you, Madam Chair. Yeah, I'd just like to echo what Mr. Ramos said. This is not the desire I don't think of any of us, and I agree. You know, it is unfortunate that we are in this position. And again, yeah, like you said, I'm sorry that we have to cause this anguish, and that we're bound by this June 1st rule, and that we weren't able to have that extended. One of the things that was shared with school committee members over the last week or so was just what Dr. Bryce was talking about. And one of the things that I'll share very briefly is that the biggest federal caveat to receiving the $121 million that the state and local governments received from the federal government was that we have to maintain that maintenance of effort, level of effort, not less than the average appropriations for FY 17, 18, and 19. And just doing some quick math, and it doesn't include this current school year, but just doing the quick math, that's about a 3.2 that average maintenance of effort between what the locals provided and what the state provided is about a $3.2 million shortage. So you know, again, I think Dr. Bryce is, you know, hearing in his meetings that it could be up to 10%, which goes to $4 million. So, you know, barring, you know, no assurances from the state or from Bristol and Warren being able to provide what was approved by the JSC and what was proposed by the state originally, based on the COVID-19 situation that we find ourselves in, it is very unfortunate that we have to take this position. But again, it's what we have to do to hedge our bets that the funding is not going to come. And so even if they don't abide by the federal requirements for maintenance of effort, and the state cuts us even further, we would find ourselves in a much bigger situation, I think, in July and August, if we don't take these measures now. Again, it's not something that we want to do. It's not something that we take lightly. These are people's livelihoods. This is the worst time of the, you know, right now to do this, when so many people are unemployed to begin with. But because we were not given any relief by the state and by BWEA to move this deadline, this is where we find ourselves, unfortunately. So I just wanted to say that.
Yeah, and so I'm sorry, Mr. Bradshaw, the one thing I would say, it's actually not BWEA.
It's NEA, right? Or?
It's NEA and
NEA.
It's AFT working with the governor's office and the legislature. They would have to be the ones to have agreed to move the date from June 1 until July 1. It would have given Bristol Warren and every other school district in the state enough time for local governments to have clarity on their revenue, and hopefully in the case of Bristol Warren, for both towns to be able to accurately say, yep, we're going to fully fund you like we said we were. Without that assurance, this is why we're in the situation we're in.
So thank you, Dr. Bryce. I will correct myself, and I apologize to BWEA. It was not the BWEA, it's the NEA and AFT, as Dr. Bryce mentioned. Sorry, BWEA.
Mrs. Reish?
Thank you, Madam Chairwoman. I just wanted to make a quick observation. I'll keep it short because I know that we've all had a long evening, but I just wanted to point out that I think the number of people that showed up to this meeting tonight is indicative of how many community members truly care about the education in our community. And I'm thrilled to see so many people involved and concerned. I'm sure this was a big, it's unsettling and it's uncomfortable. And I feel those as well. And I wanted to echo the sentiments of Mr. Bradshaw and Mr. Ramos, and to also assure lots of our community members and our parents that many of us are advocating strongly for the social emotional supports and needs for our kiddos going forward. It is on the top of my mind all the time. I want to make sure we're taking care of our students. I want to make sure we're taking care of our staff. There's a lot of folks that are developing lots of
Well, anxiety for one thing, and I worry about first responders, but that's a different conversation. But thank you everybody for showing up tonight and giving us an opportunity to hear you. We do hear you, and we are very much want to take the needs of our community into consideration. Thank you.
All right, I'm not sure why it's kind of a little difficult to unmute. Is there anyone else that has a comment on this agenda item? I think I can only see a certain amount of people on my screen. So anyways,
Madam Chair, I'm trying to unmute one of the school committee members. Sorry, I'm trying Sheila, Miss Ellsworth, sorry.
It looks like she's unmuted. Sheila, do you want to speak?
Yeah, I wasn't, somehow my system keeps muting me. But I do.
Sheila, you're breaking up.
You know, I agree with what Carly said about, you know, how important our teachers and our staff and how much we're giving. Oh my God. Can you hear me now?
No.
Can you hear me?
Miss Ellsworth, you keep breaking in and out.
Can you hear me now, Erin? Erin. All right.
I can hear that you're speaking. It's just that you're breaking up, so it's like in and out and we can't hear full sentences. Does that make sense? Oh my goodness. Okay, I'm unmuted now. Sheila, would you like to try again? And we'll see if we can hear you this time.
Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you. It's just when you get going, it starts to break up, but you can certainly give it another shot.
You know what? I'm gonna just call in and see if that works.
Okay, so I think we're just gonna wait a minute to see if Mrs. Ellsworth can call in and be heard. Kate, can you tell if Sheila is in?
I do not see if she has joined yet. Ms. Ellsworth, are you still able to hear us? Oh, okay.
Still no Sheila?
Not yet.
Okay, she says she's calling right now, so. Any sign of her, Kate? She says she's calling in now, so I'm not quite sure what's going on.
I am trying to talk to the co-host as well, because I'm not seeing that call.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome. Okay, I see. I'm admitting a call from her cell.
How do you spell Y?
Okay.
Question, why do you?
No, like
Okay. Can everybody hear me now?
Yes.
Better.
this is Y.
Okay, now we all know how the kids feel. So what I was saying is that I totally agree with Carly. However, I don't feel that we're supporting the teachers and our students in the accurate way. Cutting teachers at this time without knowing what we're doing, what is the plan for the state, when we read a lot of this is rumors for the state. Because I received a House of Representatives from the Finance Committee that was presented to them, and the average is actually FY 17, 18, and 19, which is more money than we're getting now. So I just don't understand why we're going down this road when we're fully funded. But I do appreciate everybody that has spoken. I appreciate the teachers for all their efforts. And, you know, being a parent at in this public school system, you know, it is disheartening to see all of these conversations and to see parents come forward. And yet I don't feel that we're doing enough as a school committee. And
Okay, thank you, Sheila. Is there anyone else who would like to make a comment before I call for a vote? Mr. Bradshaw?
So I will just say, according to the documents that I have, based on the original projections, to what Mrs. Ellsworth was saying, we were projected 14 million in FY21 state aid, 14.1, and 40.2 in local aid from Bristol and Warren. But if I do the math, yes, the state aid goes up by about $1.2 million if I average 17, 18, and 19. But when we average FY 17, 18, and 19 for local town aid, that average is about 35.8. So it's about a 4.2 or $4.4 million decrease in that. And if I look at our actual total general fund revenue for 17, 18, and 19, we're just at a shy under 52. So we're still at a $2.4 million decrease if we go on 17, 18, 19 numbers.
But the town isn't shorting us. It's the state. And the state, per the RIPAC that presented to the House of Representatives, the Finance Committee, it actually states that if there is a hardship, the Higher Education Institute in FY 20 and 21 will equal to their average support for the prior 3 years, which is FY 17, 18, and 19. If you take that average of what they provided to us, it was 50,324,438. And if the town is saying that they're gonna be whole, it is not $4 million.
Has the town said that we're going to be whole?
The town last night, Nathan Calora said the towns are not gonna. The JFC will keep their commitment to the district.
Mr.
So
Cole,
I just don't see.
tonight. So if he's going to go on the record with the 118 folks here, and unfortunately we don't have the full JFC. We don't have both.
He said it last night in the Bristol town meeting. So if that's the case, before we vote, then if we're uncertain, then we need to go and have a special JFC meeting prior to June 1st, prior to laying all these folks off that we really need to make sure that what we're doing is really in the best interest of our district and our kids.
I mean,
If we
you know,
haven't had that conversation for JFC, then why are we talking about laying off people? Shouldn't
So
we ask JFC what their intentions are?
and it was my understanding that it was, and it was my interpretation of what we saw was that it was state and local governments taking an average of 17, 18, and 19.
No, in
but-
this document, Brian, it says just state. It just says state.
Okay.
It does not say local. Local separate.
I mean, if that's the case, and the JFC is going to continue to fund us at the 40.275, and we're taking a 3-year average of state funding from 17, 18, and 19, which we know they provided us more money in 17, 18, and 19 because they've been cutting us every year, which isn't necessarily the case for a lot of other districts. Yeah, I agree. I mean, what hinges my vote is what does the JFC say? If the JFC is committing Bristol and Warren to maintaining their approved and appropriated funding, then I agree. I don't know that we necessarily need to be here.
When I think the concerning part is why are we doing this without actually going to why did we do all of this? Why did we put all the teachers through this prior to having that conversation with JFC?
Not true. So let me just say 2 things. Number 1, I have spoken with both town administrators, all right? And both the town administrators do not have enough information at this moment to say definitively that we are going to be fully funded. If there are other officials that want to go on record and say that we are going to be fully funded, I will absolutely take that. If the school committee is willing to accept that, then I think then this has been the exercise that we explained to the individuals that are being laid off at the end of the school year. We said that a best case scenario is that this was just an exercise, that it didn't need to happen. However,
But Dr. Bryce, did we have that conversation? Did we have that conversation with the chair of JFC to hold a special meeting to find out?
So I actually did speak with the chair of the JFC. He is interested in having a meeting. If that meeting doesn't happen before June 1st, we still have the June 1st statutory obligation, which I explained. All right. Our obligation doesn't change, even as, you know, part of the issue in this case is that we're off cycle. Because of the pandemic, taxes are not being collected by April 15th. The revenue estimates are just off. And so what we really needed as a state was for the statutory requirement to notify teachers. We needed that statutory requirement to be moved from June 1st to July 1st. It was not. We are not the only district. There are other districts. There are other districts that are in this in the absolute same situation. And so part of the question that the school committee, based on my recommendation, is that I have already shared that there is a best case scenario, there's a worst case scenario. We don't have enough information to be certain that we're not going to get hit by a worst case scenario or something in between.
Mr. Cabral? He needs to be
Okay.
unmuted.
Okay, am I all set now?
Yep.
As an administrator who had been at the high school and handed out pink slips, I just want those teachers that were notified that, you know, at the time we called a lot of them back. But one of the things that's not being said here, and I think we ought to understand this, we have to give a lot of these notices out, because we don't know who may bump a person who is junior to them, and they didn't get the notice. If that happens, that person who gets bumped, we still have to employ that person. That person isn't gone. So let's say we've got a math teacher at the high school, right, who happens to be certified in elementary, right? That person gets a notice and then says, no, I'm certified in elementary. I can bump somebody down in the elementary and take that person's position. Well, if we don't give that person a notification, guess what? We're paying that person's salary for the next year. So understand, please understand that we have to cover as many people as possible. I know the anxiety. I've been through the anxiety. And by the way, I did get pink slips too when I was first hired. But that's the concern that the administration has to have to protect the district. Unfortunately, we don't know right now what's going to happen in the future. I mean, we don't even know what's going to happen with this virus, all right? So we have to do what we have to do to protect our district. We hope that we call all of those people back. Now, remember, I have one's graduating. I have 5 granddaughters in this system. I want the system to run well. I want to see 5 and 5, the whole thing. I want to see the Colt Andrews School of all to be successful. But we have to protect the district. And that's the only thing I have to say. Thank you.
Mrs. McBride, I can only see the very top of your head.
Yeah.
But do you have your hand raised?
I did.
Okay, great. Thank you. Go
I
ahead.
just wanted to thank Mr. Cabral for his comments. This hurts all of us. Anything that impacts the children impacts all of us. But we've also been through times when we've owned people and paid their salary, and we have had them in a closet somewhere because we didn't have a class for them. And he's absolutely correct. And it's really a shame that the unions couldn't come to some agreement about June 1st. And we find ourselves where we are, and this is what we need to do. And it's no reflection on the town, on the school committee, on the children. It's a reflection of the uncertainty of the world right now. I mean, they haven't, think about it, when you think about how much the state has lost and what they're going to be able to give back, you need to take a pause. And that's exactly what we're doing. We're taking a pause. And I don't have any problem with that. So thanks. Thanks, Vic.
Is there anyone else who would like to make a comment or has a question? Okay, I just want to make a quick comment. I think this is the toughest thing we have to do every year. And I know, people think that we think this is just, there are some people, I would say, who probably don't think that, for some reason, I'm not sure, take this seriously. This is awful. Like Victor said, we all have kids and grandkids, many of us, in this system. And we would not, I can only speak for me, but I think I can speak beyond me. We would not be doing this if we didn't care, because it is a lot. And I echo Dr. Bryce in saying that we are hoping, and not only hoping, but we are confident that the federal government and the state will fill in the revenue hole so that we can call everybody back. It's an unfortunate situation. Dr. Bryce and I had some really hard conversations about how do we relay this information to teachers and staff in the most sensitive manner, because this is awful. It's awful every year, but particularly given the circumstances right now with the extra anxiety and stress people are going through with this pandemic, and how their lives have changed. And so, you know, that is one of the reasons why Dr. Bryce called the teachers individually to talk with them and to explain the situation so that teachers understand that we are hopeful that we will be calling them back, but that we have to do this. It's our responsibility to do this by June 1st. Unfortunately, that's our deadline. Because if things for some reason do not go our way financially, and if the towns cannot commit to the full amount that they had previously due to the current situation, we will be in a very difficult position in the district. So please, teachers and staff, please know how much you are valued and that we will be fighting to bring you back. Thank you. Now, I think that if no one has any more comments, we need to move this to a vote. Unless did I miss someone? Thought I just heard something. Okay. So I think the motion was already made. So all in favor?
Aye.
All opposed?
Aye.
Thank you. Our next item is the interim business manager contract. Can I get a motion?
Motion to approve, Madam Chairwoman.
Second. Thank you, and discussion. Mr. Ramos?
I just want to say that since there are quite a few people on the call, so that everybody knows what we're doing, we've had a position open, and I would ask if perhaps Dr. Bryce could provide a little bit of an explanation as to what the recommendation is, and what we're going to be voting on.
Yep. Thank you. So the recommendation is that we actually hire an individual who currently works in the district, and make that individual the interim business manager. The salary would be a range prescribed by the school committee. That individual would be in the role. He would receive a 1-year contract, and that would allow the individual to work in that position while we continue to watch, and hopefully, like many of the other hires that we've made, we would have a level of success, which is what we expect. And then next year, I would come to you with a recommendation, a multi-year contract.
Thank you, Dr. Bryce. And I would just say, in response to that, having heard Dr. Bryce's recommendation and the rationale for why he believes that this individual is the right person to provide this particular opportunity for at this time in order to serve the district in an area of need, that I'm in support of this recommendation.
Aaron, unmute.
Oh, sorry. I have to do it twice for some reason. Does anyone else have any comments or questions on this item? Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All opposed?
Aye.
Thank you. And we will move on to our last agenda item, which is the amendment of our previously approved administrative.
Madam Chair, Mr. Cabral might have had his hand up. I don't know if he cannot come off of mute. I don't know if he was a nay or an aye on that last vote.
Okay. Mr. Cabral, it looks like you're now unmuted.
Yeah, I'm voting nay.
Okay, thank you. And not sure where we just were with the last agenda item, but I need a motion to approve.
Motion to approve, Madam Chairwoman.
Second.
And discussion. Any discussion on this one? Questions? Okay, seeing none, all in favor?
Aye.
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 All opposed?
Nay.
Nay.
Okay. Thank you. And so we just need a motion to
Motion
adjourn.
adjourn, Madam Chairwoman.
Second.
Motion made by John, seconded, I think, by Brian Bradshaw. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Okay, thank you. Thanks, everyone, for coming.
Good night.
Good night.